from Certified Performance Coatings, and I'm here today in beautiful downtown Mount Clemens in our showroom to show you how we're going to apply our half kit metallic in our bathroom. So I'm going to go over a few things with you today. So it is beautiful out. There's going to be no rain in the forecast, which is very important. Our temperature is in between 40 and 80 degrees, which is also important. And our moisture in the air is around 38%. You want to keep it under 80% because if you add moisture in the air, it actually does affect the epoxy. So I'm just going to get into it and show you what we have. So this is our half kit. It comes with spike shoes, rollers, brushes, mixing tools, everything you need to actually apply our kit. And then this is our base coat. So what you get in the base coat is you get 2 pint containers, which is the part A, and then you get 2 part Bs. This will actually create your base coat covering 150 square feet. And then in the green lid, which is always your clear, green lid, always clear, don't forget it. You'll have your 1 gallon part A and your 2 quart containers, which are very important as well. You need your part B to marry to your part A. Since we're doing a smaller square footage, I'm gonna push this kit aside, and then you can actually order separate kits for each pigment you want. So that's what I did. I grabbed different kits for each pigment, because you have to marry your pigments with your kits. If you don't have a clear to accommodate your pigment, you can't apply. So this is our wet sample. It covers 6 square feet. This is what I like to use for accents. So what you get in this one, you get a cute little 2-ounce container and then a 1-ounce hardener, and you get a cute little pigment. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna open up our part A wet sample. I have my mixing stick. I'm gonna take my little pigment and I'm gonna slowly add it in. You don't wanna add too much. You kinda wanna add it like flour, because you can get what is called a plume, and then you're gonna lose a lot of your pigment. So I'm just mixing it very lightly and a little bit at a time. And until I see the pigment move down the container, then I will add some more. So I see how I'm mixing it. See how it's taking the color really well. So what you wanna do with this, whenever you're adding pigment, it needs to sit for a minimum of 24 hours before you even apply it. So these are the main colors. This is what you're gonna actually see more of. So this is 60 square feet, this is 6. So these are the main colors. And I'm just gonna do the same thing with this one that I did with this one. So I'm putting it in, bringing it down as far as I can get it, trying to really push that pigment down. You don't wanna see any kind of chunks at all, because that'll create tails in the actual floor. So you really wanna make sure it's very well blended. And again, 7 minutes is just enough. And then that 24-hour saturation time is what you really want to go for. So then we're going to get into the actual base coat and prepping. So with this floor, it's stamped concrete and there's previously coated epoxy on it. You can actually tell, because when you look into the floor, you can see the discoloration of the old epoxy. It's actually been down for 10 years and it's actually just started to delaminate, and it's only in the corner. So it's holding pretty well, but we're going to give it a facelift like it of course needs. So I'm going to get into that, but I need to get this all set up so that I'll be back in a minute to get the prep going. I'm going to pick up the little pieces of epoxy that I can that's kind of hanging out. There's always going to be some kind of delamination later on around the edges as it just pops up. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going around and finding little pieces. I'm taking them off. I can see where it's holding really well in certain areas and other areas where it's not. When you're using our coatings, even previously, you can recoat over them as long as you open up the epoxy to allow another coat to properly adhere to it. As long as the previous bonding is still holding, you're good to go. When you're cleaning the area that you're applying, you want to make sure that there's no contaminants that could fall on the ground because it'll go on the floor. So I wipe down the walls as well. So from there, all we have to do is just start mixing our product together, and then we're gonna get going. We're gonna just kind of apply the floor. So I have everything ready. I got my glasses, my gloves, I got my spike shoes on. I put a little bit of tape on just to make sure that they're not gonna come off. The straps are fine, they work good. Just like a little bit extra support. Got my drill with my mixing tool. It's a little bit dirty, but this is hardened epoxy, so it's no big deal. I have my 2 Part Bs, my Part A, my roller, and my squeegee. So we're just gonna get into it. I'm gonna put my glasses on. I got Part B. Part B always goes in the bucket first. So you wanna pour it all out. So we are using a larger kit. This kit is actually gonna cover 250 square feet because it's a 1.5 gallon. Why we're using such a larger kit? Because all this floor is one stamped. And I want to try to flood coat it as much as possible so it's a little bit smoother. If it doesn't get too smooth, that's okay. We kind of know what the look we're going for. But if you want to make sure you don't have any lines, you want to use some kind of patch kit, which is our EPK or our Pave Patch. It's a great product. It's thick. It'll fill in any saw cuts, any stress cracks, any kind of imperfections. It'll cover it. So that's both of my Part Bs in the bucket. And then I'm going to open up my Part A. So what we have to do with our Part A is you have to prep it for 3 minutes. So this activates the epoxy Part A because some sediment can sink to the bottom. So you want to make sure you have a good deep mix and that there's no chunks because that's very important. Since we're from Michigan, sometimes product when traveling to different states can get what is called seeded, which is just a crystallized state of epoxy. And it's easily managed just by putting it in a hot water bath. But I'm gonna get into mixing, so you guys can just check that out. So you see how there's 2 different colors? That's 2 different pigments separating to create our dark gray. So you wanna make sure it's evenly blended. You want one consistent color. If it's not a consistent color, you need to keep mixing. Scraping it all out. Okay? And that's my Part A. So then we're gonna go in again with the same drill we've been using. We're gonna mix again for 3 minutes on low. Again, you don't wanna aerate the epoxy. If you do not blend correctly, you can actually get spots in your floor that aren't curing, which can obviously not be very good. Now I've done, so again, we're gonna be flood coating, so it's gonna be a lot on the ground. That's okay. You might actually leave some in the bucket, and that's okay too. But what I'm gonna do, you always wanna pour the perimeter first. 1 foot from the wall, as much as you can. I'm just pouring it. You never wanna pour it in gobs. If you pour it in just gobs, it's just gonna saturate more in that one area. If you leave anything in the bucket for more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it will harden. You should not use it. When you're mixing our product, you mix and you immediately pour. If you leave it in the bucket, it's gonna harden. So I'm just lightly moving the epoxy around where I want it to go. You never push, you always pull. See how it's covering up all of those little squares? Because I'm flood coating, so I'm just moving it where I want it to go. Moving it. And again, this is a lot more than what normal kits would come with, but like I said, we're flood coating, so we need a little bit more. So I brought the epoxy where it needs to go. We're just gonna set it with the roller. I have a 3/8 snap roller right here, and then I'm just gonna roll the opposite direction that I squeegee. So I'm done. Everything's looking good to me. Everything is nice and covered, coated. What I like to do is after an hour, make sure that there's no bubbles or anything. If the bubbles do come up, you can use any kind of torch to pop the bubbles. After an hour, I will come back to remove the tape to make sure that it's not going to be stuck there forever. And then tomorrow, we're going to get into the metallics. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so right now, I'm putting on my sandpaper to sand down my imperfections. When you're doing a metallic floor, you want it as smooth as possible. Of course, there are always going to be some issues, so what you want to do is you want to handle them before you even get into your metallics. So I've had some little contaminants in the floor. They probably fell from the ceiling. It's natural. So what I'm gonna go do is I'm gonna put my hands completely around on the floor. I'm gonna take my sander and I'm gonna sand it down as flush as possible, and that'll make our metallic glide and very smooth and glass-like. Also, a very important thing that you want to do is when you're done sanding, just vacuum the entire floor. Make sure you wear your spikes because the epoxy is still curing, and the least amount of surface tension on the actual floor, the better. You can actually leave imperfections if you actually walk on the floor too early. So that's what I'm gonna do right now, and then from there, we're gonna go into the metallics. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I am putting my hands over the entire floor and I'm feeling for any bumps. If there's bumps on the floor and you feel them, they're going to be shown in the actual metallic coat. So what I'm doing is I'm using my 60 grit sandpaper in a circular motion, and I'm just opening up the areas that I think need it, and I'm removing the bumps. Some of the spots, since this stamped concrete was super uneven, we do have some highs and lows. That is normal, it will happen. Since you're putting on a metallic coat and it is a lot thicker of a coat, it'll actually hide all of the little exposure marks. So that's no big deal. There is always some problems when you're doing epoxy. You just gotta manage them and deal with them. So the best way to show that you are done sanding is these little marks. So the little marks are from the sandpaper. That's your best indication. And if it feels flat, you're good to go. So what I also like to do to make sure that there's no contaminants on the floor besides vacuuming, you can use MEK again, which is that product that we used yesterday. You put it on the rag, allow it to evaporate, and you wipe down the entire floor. It'll pick up the epoxy dust rather than using a vacuum. So I'm gonna go do that now, and I'll be right back. My clean strip MEK, the good stuff, I'm putting it on my rag, just a little bit, and allowing it to evaporate. Actually, I'm gonna set that off the floor, and then I'm gonna start wiping down the actual floor. You wanna keep switching out your rags because your rags are gonna get dirty because they're picking up all this. So you need to keep changing them out just to ensure you're not just spreading around the same dirt. So the first thing I like to do is set everything out so I know what I need. I have my 3/8 nip, 9-inch roller, my squeegee, my mixing tool, rag, gloves, and mixing wands. So the first thing you want to do before you do anything, you need to prep your part A's again. So they already have their metallic in there. When you're doing multiple colors, the darkest color should always go on first because it's going to be the one that holds the strongest. It's going to be the brightest. So you want to do any dark color first. Now I'm mixing my wet sample kit, my 4 ounces of clear with my Maui in it. And you can't put the mixing tool in it, so you just want to thoroughly mix it with your mixing stick just to make sure there's no tails. You can clearly see if you have tails because when you're pulling it out from the bottom, they'll look like little comets. We want it to look very consistent like that. That's what you're going. It's already prepped. Part B goes in the bucket first, so that's what we're gonna do. You always want to make sure also that your bucket is cleaned. If it's not, the contaminants that are in the bucket will be on your floor, so you don't want that. I like to give it a little swirl, then it's good to go. Toss that to the side. We put in our part A, pre-blended. So that's going in, and then I'm taking my stick again, and I'm just scooping out everything that I can. So with multiple colors, you want to be moving pretty quickly because this all needs to be applied at one time. So I'm gonna quickly apply my gray and then I'm gonna get my pearl going. So I'm gonna mix it now. And this is for 3 minutes. All right, so I'm done mixing. I'm gonna shake off or twist off my excess. And then you immediately wanna pour this on the ground. You don't wanna let it set up or anything. We're just gonna pour it where I want it to be. So I'm gonna go in right here. Like that. Go on this side. You can be a little bit different with the metallics because it's all about how you're pouring, your pattern, what you're going for. I'm gonna move my squeegee out of the way. I'm gonna use all of the product, but I'm just gonna put it in a pattern. You never want to do circles. If you do circles, it does not look right. So you want to do straight lines. And I'm getting all of it out, moving this out of the way, and then I'm going to get my other color going. This will be my pearl. You want to move kind of quickly because it's beginning to set up. So you need to kind of move quick. So part B in, part A in. I'm mixing. Take it out, swoop it out, all that good stuff as much as you can. And then begin to mix again. Same tool, doesn't matter. Again, mixing for 3 minutes. All right, and I'm done again. Spin on. It's all good. I'm gonna hang this over my other bucket so I don't have any drips. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I did before. I'm gonna move my squeegee. I'm gonna begin pouring where I want it to be. So right there's a good spot for me. I'll do one against this wall. Do one over here. Do a line over here. Splash back over there. And splash right here. Getting it all out again. Okay. And that goes down, and then I begin squeegeeing. So the squeegee really just moves the product where it needs to go. It doesn't really add the definition. You get that with the roller. So what I'm doing right now is just moving it where I want it to go. So that's what I'm doing. So I don't want to blend them too much, so I'm just going to switch to my roller, and I'm going to start rolling out some patterns. And then you want to get your mains laid out. Put where they want to go, where you want them to be. And then we go in with our accent color. And then we just roll again. And I always keep a paintbrush on me. If I see something I don't like, I go at it with a paintbrush. So like right behind here, make sure stuff doesn't fall out. Oops. Grab a little product that's laying around, and I just fill it in. Same with my edges. You want to keep a paintbrush on you because you can get different looks. See how I'm splattering it? You can do patterns with paintbrushes more than you can do with rollers. Rollers gives you kind of a larger look. The larger the roller, the more the impressions are going to be. So I like to go in, just kind of grab it, fill it where I want it. Grab, fill. Because you can really work with it, you can really create cool designs as long as you're using the right tools. And then I'm going to go into the accent color, and that'll really pop. Okay. So I'm gonna leave my roller right here for right now. It's not gonna stay there long. If you leave a roller for too long, ooh, see, contamination, get it out of there. If you leave anything on the floor for too long, it's there forever. All right, so now I'm gonna do the accent color, putting my part B in first. My A is already prepped. Shake, shake, shake. Ready to go, dump it in. Shake it around, grab your stick, make sure it's all out. And this will be the showstopper. This will be the money piece. This is what most people want to see. They want to see the cool colors and the metallics. So you can't get a mixing tool on this, so you just want to mix it by hand. You want to mix it very thoroughly as possible so that the part B blends with the part A. Alright, so I got my Maui all mixed up, and I'm just going to take this and kind of throw it around wherever I want it. There's a good spot. So I'll do a mixture of drips, do a little pattern. Remember, you want it cascade. You want to cascade it across. You can do like a centerpiece there. Add a little blue right there leading to the sink. Maybe a little piece right there. And then I'll fill in my little divot, my issue with my deeper color. Okay? And then you just roll again. So I'm gonna roll it out. I'm gonna keep my little brush handy. And I'm just gonna roll it out. I really like that color blend. I'm not gonna try to blend it. I'm just gonna grab it and I'm gonna cascade it down. Different techniques. So I'm gonna grab this where the roller was previously. I'm gonna leave that there because I really like that look. But I'm gonna blend, maybe bring it out. Bring it out a little bit. Grab some over here. Put it around. You want it to coincide with the whole entire floor. So we're even gonna do behind the toilet. You never skip out on anything. So if there's a toilet, you make sure you do behind it because you're gonna regret it later on. So keep going around. My paintbrush. It's a lot easier to use a paintbrush on a smaller application because obviously if you're doing a larger area, you can't really get a paintbrush, but you can actually tape a paintbrush to a stick and that actually does give you the same kind of effect. But I'm honestly happy with how this looks. I'm gonna leave a little drips from my brush on there because I just like the way they look. Pat them in. Some people don't like the bubbly look. Some people do. Really depends on what you're looking for again. And that's it. I'm done. I'm happy with how it looks. Everything looks great. I'm gonna stop my roller. Maybe if I want a little bit more color, I'm gonna grab it from in here. Let's give it a little dab. A little dab. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I like the way it looks. And it'll begin to self-level. So what you see is not how it's gonna actually turn out in the end because it's still moving. So the epoxy will actually self-level into itself and it'll become a nice smooth little transition. It won't be so choppy. So the roller marks will go away, but if you're concerned about it, you can just take a paintbrush to them, kind of dab them out. And then don't worry about your cleat marks because they will also disappear with the self-leveling. So that's it for right now. I'm gonna sit on this floor for about an hour because there could still be bubbles. You wanna manage the bubbles immediately when they come up. You pop them with a torch a few inches from the actual epoxy, like this far. The bubbles will go away and it'll be a smooth epoxy floor. I'm happy with the look. I still got some drip coming off my brush. That's okay. So at this point, it's pretty important to make sure you don't have any bubbles. Bubbles will look like little grit. So I'm gonna come back, check on it for about an hour. It should be good in about 3 days for light foot traffic, 5 days for anything that's permanent. 7 days is full cure with water to be married into it. If you want to put water on your floor, go ahead. That's when the epoxy's fully cured. And driving on it is after 7 days as well. So I'm happy with how it looks. That actually looks like a pretty cool pattern from my roller. And then you can actually put in non-skid if you want. We're not going to put non-skid in here because it's a bathroom. So the floor's been down for about 10 minutes. The bubbles are already starting to arise. So you just go in with the torch and you just pop it. I'm not being too close, I'm not directly on it, I'm not super far away. I'm just see if you can leave the torch on our epoxy, it actually won't burn it. It'll just create a different look. Our epoxy reaches 140 degrees, so there's not much you can do to it. But if I don't like something, I can kind of go back in, hit it. Look, I even still have some pigment tails. See, that's the greatest indicator that I did not blend my pigments enough. So, if you see that, that means you didn't blend enough, and you probably should have. Try to avoid it if you can. Learn from my mistakes. The epoxy is still self-leveling with metallics. You can choose between putting non-skid in the floor or not. With metallics, it kind of takes away the effect of it, kind of gives it more of a matte look. That's up to you to decide. Our epoxy does have a high viscosity, so super shine, super slick. It happens. I'm really proud of this floor. We do have a little bit of some imperfections because of the highness of the stamped concrete. That's right there, right there. So what you would do with that, but since this is just our bathroom, I'm not too worried about it, but if you were dealing with those in a customer floor or in your residential floor, you would actually go back before the metallic coat and reseal that again. But other than that, I really like the way it turned out.